So I'm just trying to revise what we've seen. Yeah. What is the purpose of Beck's query designer? We use this to design a query, and this is the query designer tool where you get to see metadata block, messages block, properties block, rows, columns, free characteristics, and then filter block. Good. What do you mean by restriction? When do you go for restriction? Yeah, when you want to restrict the entire query based on the value of a characteristic, I go with restriction or filtering. And in the filter, I got two blocks. One is default values and one is characteristic restriction. What is the difference? Yeah. In both the case, restrictions affects I can do filtering, but if I do filtering in default values, and the initial stage, the query result set is filtered for that, and user can change the filter values. But if I do in characteristic restriction, the filter is fixed. User will not be able to change the definition of the filters, right? Good. What is the difference between CKF and RKF? CKF is nothing but calculate key figure. RKF is rested key figure. By using CKF, you basically derive a new key figure based on the existing operands or key figures and perform some calculation with some formulas. And when you say RKF, you have a key figure, and I want the restriction, but restriction has to affect only to that particular column. If I want restriction on all the columns, then normal filtering. If I want restriction to one particular key figure alone, then I'll go with what? Restricted column. Then what is cell definitions? When I want to perform calculation or restriction specific to one cell, then I go with cell definitions. And for using cell definitions, at least compulsory two structures must be used. One is the rows, one is in the columns. So then it enables cell definitions where I can define logic or restriction particular to one cell. What is formula collision? So when I have formula once in the rows, one is in the columns, and it is conflicting at one cell level, by using formula collision, I can specify which formula should be given the preference. Competing formula or this formula. Okay, good. What is the function noDim used for in the calculated key figures? Keyword value without unit free value. With unit free value is my noDim here. Good. Now what is the difference between calculated keyword and formula? Calculated keyword is local. So calculated keyword is global. New formula is local. And new formula can only use the key figures which are there in the structure elements. But CKF can use every keyword which is in the operand. Can I use CKF into CKF? Can I use RKF into CKF? Anything can be used which is under keyword folder. And can I reuse my structures in the other queries? Yes, if you save a structure, it becomes global and it can be reused into other queries. Now let's say I have a global structure. If I do changes here, it reflects changes to other structures in other query. How do you control this? Remove reference. So I have global structure. I use a global structure in query 1 and I use global structure in query 2. If I do changes to the structure in query 2, will it reflect changes in query 1 also? If I don't want that to happen, then I'll say what? I'll right click on the global structure and say remove reference. So it will detach the link between local version of the structure to the global version. Then if I do changes here, it will not reflect the changes to the global structure. That is what he gets. Then do you know about what is the difference between filter and conditions? Filtering is done on the characteristic value, condition is done on the measures, keyword values. Good. Now let's say I want to design a top-end customer report. How do you design? By using conditions, I can design top-end customer. Good. Now did you work with variables? And ultimately what we learned: filtering, conditions, RKF, CKF, formula, new selection, structures, cell definition. Exception. What is the purpose of exception? Just to provide alerts. Just to provide alerts in the report based on some criteria of the measures, key figures. We can provide some alerts. Red, yellow, green, or red, yellow, and green. That is one. Then it work with variables centered. Yes. How many types of variables do we have? Characteristic value variable, text variable, formula variable, hierarchy node variable. Did you know about processing types? Characteristic value variable, text variable, formula variable, hierarchy node. Replacement path, authorization, customer exit, SAP exit, and user entry at default. So did you work with every processing type? Yes, I am very strong in reporting. I work with every combination of it. Good. Did you work with replacement path? Yes. What was the scenario? I was creating a trending report for current month, previous month, next month, and there's another report where we designed for current year, previous year, next year also. We wanted to have the heading of the column to be changed dynamically by using text with replacement path. Then we created a text variable replacing the value of your calendar year. Then we also had a requirement of actual goods usage date and planned goods usage date, where there are two dates as characteristics, and I wanted to use them into calculation to calculate number of days. I had to use formula variable with replacement path, replacing the characteristic value, and then used it into calculation with formula with replacement path and calculate number of days. Then I also had a requirement where I had material, and I had an attribute called standard price. And in order to use the standard price and calculate the cost, I was supposed to use this key figure into calculation. In order to use the key figure, which is an attribute of a characteristic into calculations, we had used formula variable with replacement path. Okay, good. Then he'll ask me to work with customer exit. Yes, we have worked with customer exit for all scenarios like YTD, MTD, week to day we have designed. We have used the enhancement RSR 00001, and we include that into project, and the include program we are writing KS I underscore VNAM, and then we are writing it as clear L underscore T underscore range, low, high, sign and opt. Depending on the requirement, we are assigning the values and appending the back data to what? E underscore T underscore range, and using it. Do you know I underscore step? I underscore step would be 1, 2 or 3. 1 is before variable screen is popped up. 2 is for populating mandatory variables which are not shown to user. 3 after when you click on execute button. Then when to use what under? I use I step 1 when I want to provide some dynamic default values. Dynamic default values. I use step 2 when I want to populate a value to the variable based on the value of user enter variable. Then we use a table I underscore T underscore var underscore range to do lookup to user enter variable values, and then fill in my variables. Then I use I step 3 for all validation checks. And then right, we all done.